African.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the show. This is The Couch. My name is Pratt. It's a Thursday, and so it's the Thursday Hard Talk edition of the show. Well, it's been another very interesting week in terms of the news. It's been very, very busy. You know, our newsmakers, as usual, have got us talking. There's been lots of talking points for this week, and we are here, you know, as always, to make some sense. And more importantly, to decide for ourselves what all of this means for the bread and butter issues, and also for us, you know, as all of us gear up for the 2024 elections, to, you know, what real was, you know, path, you know, where we should stand, you know, and what is in our interest, you know, as the people of this country. Tonight, our issues are three. One, Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources refutes a Blackwest State capture claims. That's, you know, issue number one. Issue number two, election 2024, losers must accept outcome. And, you know, those are statements that's been attributed to Madam Jane Mensah. And she also assures transparency in the upcoming election. Issue number three, we go right into Parliament, where there's been an ally on MPs, you know, having access to syringes, you know, well, not just MPs, I think it's broader than that, you know, but that one, and the fact that it's been withdrawn. So there's lots to talk about. We have a special guest, you know, joining our team tonight. Stay with us. I'll introduce them very shortly.
Are you searching for the perfect venue to host your next event? Look no further than Meris Event Plus. Discover the epitome of sophistication with our Skybox Event Center. This indoor marvel offers spacious hall area, accommodating up to 500 esteemed guests.
From the break tonight, we've been joined by the Honorable Al-Hassan Suhini. He's MP for Tamale North and ranking Lands and Natural Resources. Honorable, it's always a pleasure.
Same here.
Well, why don't you just join the team? Why don't you just join us?
I actually enjoy, you know, voting for the couch at home and watching you in the couch. A couple of times I must admit that I have thought to myself that it would be very nice to join you and your regular, you know, panelists. But the schedules sometimes are just that unpredictable, and so you don't want to commit to it, and then along the line schedules don't allow you, and then you appear very disappointing. So let's keep it this way. As and when.
Yeah, we appreciate that you make the time as and when.
Yes.
To join us. And we are very happy that tonight you are here with us.
I'm happy to be here.
Right. We also have Kwame Usudan, so morning show host, head of production PATV with us. Hi, Kwame.
Hello, Amma.
Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
We are waiting for Diko Jo Youngson, broadcast journalist Joy FM, to join us shortly. Also, Clarence, So Yes, the rest of the squad, are on their way. We are the punctual, disciplined people. Yeah. Okay.
Could you definitely deal with you?
I know.
The in-house regular disciplined people.
Okay.
In-house emphasize.
Okay. We'll take it. Let's go straight into Parliament, Honourable. And let me quickly say that, once again, there's been public outcry about something that has happened in Parliament. But again, once again, there seems to be some drama, around it, where today the majority MPs are saying that how can the minority MPs be pointing fingers at us, when in fact you are the ones who, so unpack the issues for us.
Well, I think that one of the problems that we are faced with in our democracy is the level of education that people have when it comes to understanding the different arms of government, their responsibilities, and especially the processes that are used to discharge those responsibilities. On the part of the responsibilities, somehow, education or understanding of it is higher. So people know what the legislature is supposed to do. People have a fair understanding of what the executive is supposed to do. They have a fair understanding of what the judiciary is supposed to do. So they know their responsibilities. To a large extent, many people have some appreciable knowledge in that regard. But the problem is with the processes that they are to use, each of the arms are to use in discharging those responsibilities. So you have situations such as the LI come before Parliament, and based on this less than appreciable appreciation of how things work in Parliament, one is forgiven to condemn the whole legislature for what has happened. And like I said, one is forgiven. You can't blame people for the way they felt. By the way, their indignation and anger were justifiable. The direction is what I find problematic. But it was justifiable anger. In fact, when my attention was drawn to it, even as a member of Parliament, I was upset. I was like, what the heck? What are people thinking? But like I said, the anger, justifiable. But the direction is problematic. But it's also forgivable, because the direction is based on the person's level of understanding of how things work. So in Parliament, I've said this somewhere one time. I said this somewhere one time, and then I had a conversation afterwards with a very high, person in society, that Parliament exists to do government business in Ghana. By our architecture, our governance architecture, to a very large extent, our Parliament exists to do government business. And thank God Kwame is here. Article 1088 of the 1992 Constitution makes it difficult until recently for members of Parliament, in fact, not difficult, makes it impossible for members of Parliament to even introduce bills. Until recently, when we passed the private members bill, the private members motion, that allows members to now bring bills. But even with that, 1088, as we are seeing now, is used by the executive to render that opportunity redundant. Because when you pass the law, he can tell you that it somehow imposes a cost on the consolidated fund, and so I won't sign. So what Parliament does usually is to do government business. Government comes with a bill, government comes with a contract, government comes with a budget, government comes with the legislation, and then Parliament either agrees or disagrees or fine-tunes it. So we were existing, or we are a cooking pot of government business. So in the case of an LI, legislative instrument, we have two instruments. You have the LI, that's the legislative instrument, and you have the constitutional instrument, the CI. There are laid down procedures that these things follow, but they both usually emanate from the executive. So the executive will put its ideas of what it wants to do in either a form of a CI or an LI. And Amma, you know what? Both are served in Parliament to just be cooked. And I'll explain. Parliament is like a cooking pot. The executive, when they want to cook a certain meal in the form of an LI or a CI, bring it to you and they lay it, and it's supposed to be cooked after a number of days, 21 days. You have no impact. So like a cooking pot, what is cooked in you, you have no impact on whether it tastes nice or not. That's how LIs and CIs are treated. So government comes, if you recall, when the electoral commission during elections they want to pass a CI, they make that argument that we can make all the noise we want. Once the instrument is laid, after 21 days, it is supposed to pass as law. 21 sitting days, it's supposed to pass as law. So in this case, if government cooks jollof, or they want to cook jollof, and they mix all the ingredients, and then they come and put it in the pot, and put fire on it and it starts cooking, do you blame the pot if the jollof is not, the smell of the jollof is not nice? That's why I say the anger, justifiable. The indignation, I support. I felt same. But then the direction, I find problematic. But then it is also forgivable because people don't have this understanding that I have of the workings of Parliament when it comes to how you deal with a CI or an LI. So it was based on some of these criticisms in the past that Parliament decided that we'll introduce, because we are masters of our own game, we will introduce what is called pre-laying. It is not known in the Constitution, it's not known in our standing orders. It was just so that we can see what government, the ingredients government has mixed. When you come to put it in our pot these days, we want to see what you are bringing. And we can make suggestions, because the law is that once it is laid, you only can overturn it with 2/3 majority. And you know the nature of our parliaments. 2/3 majority is difficult to get. You can only overturn it with 2/3 majority. So we're saying that now before you lay it, allow us to see what is inside. And if we have suggestions too, we will make the suggestions to you. But they remain suggestions. They are not binding. If government is minded to take on board the suggestions that are made, then it does. If it is not minded, nothing stops it from still laying it the way they want. So in the specific case of the LI, when I asked around, my understanding was that government brought this LI to Parliament to pass the law. And the law was to allow the police service, especially, to introduce technology in managing traffic in our cities. And among other things, they included the use of sirens. And gave a long list of those who could have sirens installed in their cars, and those who were to be, and same were to be exempted from a speed limit. I mean, upset. But they had a long list. Included the vice president. I mean, in the past, the president and I think the IGP, were already captured, and the chief justice and the speaker. But the vice president was never provided for in the law. So it's just by practice that the vice president gets a motorcade, but it's not in the law. Convention. So they introduced vice president. Then they also introduced, I am informed, judges of the superior courts, from high courts upwards. And then they added ministers and deputy ministers. Long list. So when they brought it to lay, because again, not according to the law, it's just our own convention, the committee said, let's see what is inside. Because in the past, when you lay these things, we don't have any opportunity to correct it or to make suggestions again. So let's see it before we lay. So a meeting was conducted. And the members of Parliament, they had two options. They could have rejected, or they could have suggested to government that, look, take out the deputy ministers, and other people. That was one option available to the members of Parliament, because we don't think that they need it. The other option was to question why ministers and deputy ministers can get it and we members of Parliament can't get it, because we are supposed to be equal, because majority of MPs actually become ministers and deputy ministers. So these two options were open to them. One, to tell them that no, take ministers, judges of high court out, we don't accept. The other option was to say that if ministers and deputy ministers are there, then include MPs. And so the committee, and the committee, you should know, is not the entire Parliament. The committee is usually made up of less than 25 MPs. So members of the committee, unfortunately, in my view, fell for the temptation to be included once they saw their colleague ministers and deputy ministers there, and said, no, if you are doing this for ministers and deputy ministers, then you should as well add MPs, because it's MPs who become ministers. So this 25-member committee made that suggestion, and the executive also accepted that suggestion and included it. Yes, of course, and included it. And then it was laid. And like I said, once it is laid, it is not a document that is usually shared and discussed. It's at the committee level. Unless you are interested or your attention is drawn to it and you request for a copy. And even if you request for a copy, remember, I already told you that even if you request for a copy, you cannot really do anything about it unless you can marshal to third, support to overturn the laying. So it was in the process of traveling the 21 days when civil society and Gen Zs and other people on social media raised the concern. In fact, I first saw it on, and let me mention his name. The first person who sent it to me was Franklin Kujo. He tagged me on social media. And then I said, is there a law like that? So I called the chairman of the subsidiary legislation committee, who happens to be Dr. Dominic Ayini. And he said, yes, this is what came to us and this is what we are considering. I mean, we had a long debate. So I took the conversation to our MP's platform. And before long, almost all members on the platform were against such, a proposal for them to use it. But then by the next day, running into the second day, even though we were all angry together, we became the targets of the anger, which was justifiable. Like I said, I mean, it's forgivable. You can understand. So, I mean, sorry, I was a bit winding and long, but I just thought that this is necessary for people to understand. So, in the end, one lesson that I think we must all learn from this and many other things that have happened recently is how powerful we are as a people. And how true it is that the people in power is not always stronger than the power of the people.
Honorable, what do you say to, and I'm happy you bring up Franklin Kujo, because it's also on Facebook, I think on his Facebook page, that, this issue of, it was rather the minority that actually wanted it, and they've now turned around to say that what do you say to
you
that?
See, a committee, that's why I limited it to the committee. The committee of about 25 members is usually made up of, 12 MPP, 13 MPP and maybe 12 NDC members. And you are talking about 275. I mean, so you have to understand that this was not a popular view. It was just the representatives of the two political parties who went to the committee meeting and came out with this. But you see, I've heard the accusations and counter accusations. In fact, I've even heard a narration, especially from the minister, that suggests that they did not even have the sirens thing in the original bill, and that it was the MPs. In fact, he was candid with me that it was the MPs on both sides who demanded that they must introduce it. I mean, that's another narration that is out there.
That one justifies the outrage.
No, you see, even if it justifies the outrage, then it should be. If I said the outrage is justifiable, the direction is what I'm saying. I have a problem
this one
with.
also justifies the direction.
No.
It justifies the outrage and the direction.
No, the 25 cannot be representative of a 275.
Well, that's a fair point. Yes.
Are you getting it?
Yes.
So it's still problematic.
Yes.
So the 25, according to him, the 25 members on both sides requested for it. That's another story that is out there. But my point is, if you listen to the people who have defended this since it came up, you have had NPP members of the committee who have come out strongly before it was withdrawn to defend it and to give reasons why they thought that it was a good thing they were doing. You have had NDC members who have also done the same thing. So it becomes curious to want to say that it's only NDC people who propose it. Because you have heard Apia Kobi, that's the name. Yes. You have heard, Dr. Ayine also say, hold me responsible for it. Yes, he's the chairman of the committee, so he's just showing responsibility and saying, hold me responsible. Then you have Apia Kobi also saying that, look, it was correct. I mean, it was to increase productivity, and all kinds of weird justifications have come. So it will be unfair to, at this point, want to say this party was for it at the committee level and this party was against it at the committee level. But what is important in my view is that about 20 members of the committee, their views wasn't representative of the 275 members of parliament. Right. And I can assure you that majority members of parliament, I'm sure more than 2/3, when they heard about this, were all appalled by it, because we do not think that we should be seeking to escape from the problems that we are elected to help resolve.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you, Honorable Kwame. It's been withdrawn. It's been withdrawn.
Thank you very much. Welcome to him.
He has been yes. I was expecting comments.
So I had to remind him that it's been withdrawn.
Welcome to the
Thank you.
The show, and also a special good evening to our viewers.
Right.
And a big thank you to them for always watching the show and contributing and advising and directing us as to where we should go, etc. My take on this matter is pretty simple. I don't think that there's any doubt at all about the workings of Parliament and the activities of parliamentarians. I think that we all appreciate that they represent us and they have a daunting task, and all the time they must run around to do the bidding of the Ghanaian people and to further advance the aspirations of the Ghanaian people. They represent us, so they are our ears and our mouths, because all of us cannot be in Parliament. And that comes with some responsibilities. And their work, I presume, is such that, they have to consistently run around and do several other things, sit in committees, do this, go to their constituencies, engage the people, come back and all of that. So that cannot at all be questioned in terms of, their work. But it must be pointed out that parliamentarians work in the interest of its people. They serve their constituents, and by extension, they offer services for the good of the Ghanaian people. Now, they are there to ensure that they pass laws, which laws finds expression in the teething challenges which confronts the people of this country. And therefore, if I live in Dome-Kwabenya constituency and I have a member of parliament there, that member of parliament must necessarily raise issues in that constituency which affect all of us, and must ensure that he or she does whatever it takes to bring about some minimum change in that constituency.
Hopefully maximum, but at the very least minimum.
At the very minimum change. And similarly, it applies to all members of parliament. They pass laws. That's their core duty and to also act as a check on the executive and the other arms of government. Now, in doing that, they must be in that situation which is felt by the people to be able to pass laws which will benefit them. And so I've heard on several occasions where people actually make the point that we are over-pampering our members of parliament, which is why our problems never get solved. That if the roads are bad, they drive V8s, so they don't feel the potholes on our roads. That if we don't have water running through our taps, they have mechanized boreholes, they have whatever. They have poly tanks and things in their homes, so they don't feel it. That if we are in Doomso, they don't care because they have inverters and generators in their homes. So when we are feeling the Doomso, they don't feel it that much. That if we are faced with security challenges, they have, Russian shepherd dogs. Those dogs, they have security. They are protected 24 hours, so they don't feel it. And so one would have thought that in all their dealings, beyond the fact that we as a people have decided that we will give them the maximum protection and the luxury and the comfort and the peace of mind to pass laws which will benefit us, they will not further compound the pain of the Ghanaian people by coming out with even a thought that they needed further luxury to be able to do their work. In any event, the luxury that we have created for them, what have we seen? Because one would have expected that you would request for something more if you have been able to deliver and you have satisfied the needs of the people, so that the people themselves can say that, you know what, even if you are not requesting, we are the ones who are going to say that, look, we need to ensure that MPs have a lot more liberty. We give them so many, we give them so much freedom and luxury to be able to operate freely and help us. But because we don't benefit so much from the workings that they do, that is why people are up in arms. It's not because people are upset that MPs are going to get some luxury, but it's because consistently we have not really realized the true benefits that we gain from members of parliament. And that's a fact. I'll cite you several examples. You remember that when Akufo-Addo's administration won the second time, members of parliament were given the task to scrutinize people who were going to head different institutions, head different ministries and things like that. What did we see? There were many times when people said that most of these people that you were seeking to vet were not people who, in our estimation, were qualified to even, manage those ministries and parastatals. What did we see? Some of them got 90%, some of them got 100% and things against the position of the people. You are here in this country, Amma, where the right to information bill had to be a tussle before it got passed. Okay? There's a bill that is still pending in Parliament, a bill that will allow for equal representation for women in Parliament, in politics. What's the bill? What's it called? The women bill. Affirmative bill. Affirmative action bill is still in Parliament. And I bet my bottom peso, if people had not raised concerns about this particular LI, it would have been passed. It would have gone through with ease. But the ones that people are so emotional and empathetic about, those ones are still pending and nothing has happened to them. So who are you serving? Do you care deeply about the aspirations? Do you care deeply about the pain that the average Ghanaian would have to go through every day? Do you care about your people? Do you care about the people who have given you their right, okay, to go and represent them? They've given you the mandate to say that go and represent me. Do you care about those people, or you care about your comfort? I am saying this to mean that to begin with, that LI should not have even been contemplated. And even if it was within somebody's contemplation, and I can understand, because El-Suhini is right when he says that, the ministers are not better than us. We are all the same. I can appreciate that. That once you are including ministers in that particular clause, then by extension, the members of parliament who perhaps even do a lot more work than some of the ministers would also raise concerns and say that then also include us because we are all in the same business, right? But I'm saying that in taking that decision, did you pause to reflect and think about the people who put you there and whether or not you've been able to deliver on the promises that you made to the people? So, and again, you know, Senior also explained that it is precisely because of some of these reasons. That is why there's a committee that has to first look at the bill before it's even brought before the whole plenary. Is it plenary? Plenary. For a general conversation to be had and possibly considered, right? Now, my thing is this. When it was brought before them and they saw that, you know, ministers were included, I think that they should have had the benefit of knowledge to know that the Ghanaian people will not appreciate even ministers, you know, being added to that list. And that the people have not really benefited from them. So why would you even add them to begin with? And then to make matters worse, you actually try to edit it out and include yourself, or you request that that portion be amended and you included. And then that committee adopts it. So eventually it was actually going to be moved from that committee to the plenary. But for the timely intervention of the watchful eyes of the civil society organizations and some other well-meaning Ghanaians, and Suyini stated to you that he was not even aware, and he would have only been aware if he had come before plenary. And I'ma believe you me, getting to first majority to withdraw this bill would have been a problem. I'm telling you, if he had crossed this bridge, it would have been very difficult to withdraw it. Who doesn't like comfort? Who doesn't like luxury? And it is given to you on a silver platter. Ministers should not benefit from the state or should not enjoy some luxury, right? But I'm saying that you cannot enjoy that luxury at the expense of the pain, the sufferings of the Ghanaian people. You cannot do that. When you do that, you want to place yourself above the average Ghanaian. You want to create a class system. And that class system is what we must eschew from our body politic. Because that is why people feel that, you know, we are below a certain level. And that is why we are not being respected. And that is why, you know, politicians always take us for a ride and things like that. So we must make sure that, yes, there's a class system that exists. We know that in our body politic, yes, but don't make it so brazen. Don't show it in our faces. You know, don't let us feel as though we are third-class citizens when all of us are supposed to be equal before the laws of this country.
Right.
Finally, Amma, we are governed by laws, and the Constitution is clear that we are all equal before the law. It's one of the principles of the rule of law, that everybody must be treated equally before the law. But the Constitution did not say that there are some people who are first-class citizens and others who are second-class. In fact, the president, okay, if the president violates the Constitution, the president can be dealt with. So there's nobody who is above the law. Once it is if you violate a traffic law, you have violated it. So you have offended those traffic regulations. Once you offend it, you must be brought to book. And I think that this thing has come up by reason of this survey that was conducted, I believe, by CTFM or so, CTTV, sometime 2 or 3 years ago, where some ministers, together with this police department, that's MTTU or MTTD, on the Temamoto Way, a member of parliament was stopped because he was driving on the shoulders of the road, which is an offense. And several other politicians have been arrested by reason of that, those kinds of conduct. So I'm saying that we can have that discussion, we can have that debate, but this is not the time to have that debate. Right. And finally, Amma, a cue must be taken from what happened in Kenya, so that whenever you are taking some decisions, you must pack your conscience behind the possible effect that that decision may have in the event that you execute it.
Right.
Kenya should be an example, to all of us, that when you take decisions, which decisions do not necessarily align with the views of the Ghanaian people, they may rise up and they may create a problem that you may not be able to solve going forward.
Right. We are very happy that it's been withdrawn. It's wonderful news. It didn't go through. I still have some fundamental questions, and one of those fundamental questions.
But have you paused to ask yourself why it was withdrawn? Have you asked that question? It was not withdrawn because the people wanted to withdraw it.
Some majority members in Parliament were opposed to it. We have seen it before, where majority members of Parliament are opposed to it, but are still are opposed to an issue, but are still unable to do anything about it if that is what the executive wants. It was withdrawn because the people, were opposed to it and made it obvious that they were going to get confrontational with the people with the power. They didn't listen to them. Yes, and that for me must not be lost on all of us.
Absolutely, Honorable. Welcome, Kojo. The very disciplined Kojo Youngson is here. Yeah, welcome, Kojo. Welcome.
This is a chiding me. I'll tell you about it later.
She was chiding me. She was chiding me.
Right. I didn't know you could be that sly.
We are exposing corruption here.
And then here you are. This is called shut up praise.
I was chiding me.
Before you came here, she referred to some people as disciplined and always punctual.
Yes.
And so now that you have
to the exclusion of others.
Yes, that's so you know what that means, right?
And the only people who were said to be disciplined and always punctual are these two. So your defense, I said they're in-house discipline.
You can't reporting it all. You can't use the people.
Don't gossip around me. That's my weakness.
Now I know what I see my friends, I see my friends.
You don't gossip around me.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
And I do apologize for being late.
Kojo.
It's not been a typical day for me, so forgive me, please.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
nice to be here.
You are very punctual, Kojo. You are.
Thank you.
Absolutely. No, but Kojo, I was saying we're discussing this LI
Yes.
one. But you won't have a lot
Okay.
of time today. Just
Okay.
briefly. But I was saying that my issue then becomes one of this whole thing about representation, and if our members of Parliament are there to represent our views, and how come they seem to get it wrong? Because once we heard of it, all of us said we don't like it. And if Parliament represents us, shouldn't it be Parliament always having views that side with our views? I always get confused when our position is different from the position of Parliament, because then it makes me question the whole parliamentary exactly, because it's supposed to be representational. It's supposed to represent our views.
I agree with you, and I think it goes without saying. That's the whole point, of choosing a member of Parliament. If you think about how communities were formed all the way back at the beginning of civilization, as communities grew, it became clear that we can't all come under the mango tree for daily meetings to decide on, our development and our safety and our health and all that. We can't fit under the tree. So what would happen is that every group or community would say, you go for us. And this is where the concept of parliament was born. The idea that you pick one from among you who will always represent your views in the big house of decision making. We have decided that we are going to, one of the decisions I really still can't get behind, this idea of using a hybrid of the parliamentary system and the presidential system. I see the demerits of it every day. But that's what we've committed to, okay? And that's what we are trying to operationalize. And in that system, our only representation for decision making is in Parliament. But unfortunately, we've done certain things that have made it difficult for parliamentarians to represent us. And I'll give you one of the biggest of such things, and it didn't happen too long ago. It was when the Right Reverend Honorable Mike Ukwe was Speaker. There was a ruling made. The point of it was to determine whether a member of Parliament, once they crossed carpet, could remain member of Parliament. And the ruling was made that you cannot. By this ruling, the Right Honorable actually made it a matter of record that a parliamentarian represents his party, not his constituency. And from that point onwards, that has become the straitjacket by which members of Parliament operate. They will come to you for votes in order to make it into the House of Parliament. But once they get there, they will work for their party. And unfortunately, in some cases, for themselves. You see, and this misfortune has befallen all of us. I mean, I don't want to blame only the former Speaker of Parliament for this. I mean, he made a ruling based on his, his view of the situation at the time. But I think it has now created this situation where a parliamentarian in his own mind, while he's sitting in the room, in his own mind, his job there is to do what his party wants. Yes, so where do you, the constituent, come in? Now this ambulance thing, let me just say, this is the last thing I'll say so that we can move on to other issues. Look, by pulling back that LI, they have done the best thing, the wisest thing under the circumstances. Because you know what? We in Ghana, we like to copy pa. What happened in Kenya has been praised and lauded by Ghanaians. Trust me that they are looking for an opportunity to do the same. And you see, the only thing that stops it is this polarized partisan nature of our population. So everybody is on one side or the other, and so they can't really rally behind anything. But if Parliament had come together to make this ruling, you would have given them something to rally behind. And it would have been like, you failed us all. I mean, why? You need sirens so you can hurry to funerals. You need sirens so you can hurry to where? Parliament, where most of you say nothing. You don't even go. I mean, honestly, this is what you need sirens for? Look, it's always the small things. It's always the small things that everyone can relate to. Everyone has been stuck in traffic before. Everyone has been in trotro before. Everyone has been caught behind gridlock when you are late for something so important.
I get down and jump on Okada all the time.
Imagine.
All the time.
Imagine.
Jump on Okada and bounce.
So you, and by the way, you know someone who used to do that? Ken Oforiatta. When they were in opposition. He would jump on Okada to get wherever. He's jumped on Okada to get to my show before. Ken Oforiatta, who became finance minister. So you see, when as soon as people are elevated to a certain position, they become immunized to the problems that we all face. Right? That's what they are used to. So they want to now create a certain
luxury.
These are the things. These are the things that lead to revolt. And if they hadn't pulled it back,
Trouble.
This is an easy thing to get
Trouble.
angry about.
Of course.
You know, so, and Parliament, they like that. I remember in 2015 or so, when they decided to change the chairs in Parliament. Look, I'm not saying that MPs shouldn't sit in comfortable chairs. I mean, of course, why not? I mean, it's a good thing, right? But at the time, if you remember what we were going through as a country, when an IMF program and, cutting costs here and then, the Parliament comes up with this big budget, they are flying people to China to go and check some chairs before it was annoying. And you see, you have to read the room.
I told you.
You have to read the room.
Timing.
Right? And I remember interviewing Oseche Minsabos, who was minority leader at the time, about these chairs. That, look, is this the time for this? You know what he said to me? He said, do you want parliamentarians to sit on plastic chairs? I said, yes! You go and beg people who sit on benches in their parliament for money to come and buy V8 and sit in Chinese chairs? No. You should actually be sitting on Asesegba. Stools. That's what you should be sitting on. You're asking me if you should be sitting on plastic chairs. No, honestly, I mean, I think there has to be a certain sense of awareness. Honestly, maybe it's about time. But we are a third world country.
Kojo, so well, I spoke about the first fundamental, issue from, but the other one too is that you have people that are actually in a hurry to go save lives under emergency situations, like a doctor, like a nurse. One would have thought that perhaps they could have been priority. Not a member of parliament who knows that parliament starts at this time every day and is going to parliament, right? The person who has just been called that, hey, there's an emergency, an accident has just happened. Can you quickly go there and save lives? I would have thought that
but that is who the law permits to have a siren. That is who the law permits to have a siren. Our existing law is for them. It's for them. But some people too who are tired of waiting.
It's been withdrawn. Let's go ahead. It's been withdrawn. It's been withdrawn. Okay.
I don't want to drag us back, so I'll just leave it.
It's okay, Honorable. It's been withdrawn.
I know we have to move to other issues. We just have to remember that majority of the members of parliament were equally outraged when their attention was drawn to this.
Right.
It's good.
So we represent our people.
And these days I say this all the time, that we need to come back and have conversations. But this is a conversation I think we need to come back and have. Because, I'm sorry, Honorable, this is not an attack on you, but I'm increasingly getting wary of members of parliament who did not know. A lot of things happen. And when there's a public outcry, and all of us are angry, and members of parliament are feeling exactly the way we are also feeling, and they don't know. And I'm getting wary of that.
Amma, that is why I told you that we all seem to have an appreciable level of understanding when it comes to the rules that the different arms of government are supposed to play. But the understanding many of us lack is the processes that are permitted to carry out those responsibilities in the different arms of government. So I'll give you an example. Before I came here today, I've been locked up in a meeting, a committee meeting, from about 9 a.m. until I looked at the time and I had to rush out. Right. The meeting was still underway when I rushed out. Now, this was a meeting of two committees. The previous committees of parliament, we have new ones now. So mines and energy and lands and forestry.
Congratulations, by the way, Honorable.
Thank you. And this was based on a petition on the Ada Songo salt issue. That was referred to the two committees to consider. These two committees are made up of less than 30 members of parliament. Those who may have the time to be present at all the meetings may not get to the 20. Like today, I think we're about 12, 15 that met with community members and other chiefs and traditional authorities. At this stage, not until we finish and present our report, our colleagues don't know that we are working on something. So if you ask any member of parliament about the Adan Songo salt issue, he may not know, because it's not his committee if he's not part of it. Are you getting how things work? So don't be scandalized or uncomfortable when an issue in parliament that is not discussed on the floor is unknown to some members. Because not until it is discussed on the floor, debated on the floor, then you have no right not to know. Because even if you miss parliament that day and you are a very diligent parliamentarian, you will ask for the Hansard. You will look at what was discussed, what was said by who on the matter. So you should know. But if it is a matter that is still seized with the committee, and especially when it has to do with LIs and CIs, like I explained, if you are not minded as a member of parliament,
Honorable, I'll use that word.
Yeah.
Honorable, that's so. Just so we can rush away from this. I'll use that word. I need my members of parliament to be minded.
The point is
I need all my members of parliament to be minded.
But see, you have to understand that parliament, you are talking about everything in Ghana. You are talking about mining.
Honorable, we'll come back.
You are talking about roads. You are talking about construction. I mean, it is going to be very difficult for one parliamentarian to keep track of all the things that are happening. No, it's not possible. You have to prioritize, and you have to focus and decide which ones are more important to you. It's not like you ignore the rest, but you prioritize and focus on what is more important.
Perhaps I think what we then need to do is identify specific committees and give them the fire. As and when issues come up, identify the specific, a committee that.
Because on this LI matter, the truth is that it was more with the subsidiary legislation committee.
Right. That committee.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
They had all the information. They took all the decisions.
Right.
And because LIs are not usually, amended by members of parliament, if it is, to be fair, I think that it should be the subsidiary and the transport committee, because the two committees were working on it together.
They are the ones who fell a hand on this occasion. They've
Well,
done the right thing now, but yeah, they didn't try. They didn't try at all.
You see, MPs are always a soft target. I understand
they didn't
why
try.
It becomes very easy for people who are upset with the system to choose MPs, because we come to the people all the time for the votes.
If the executive is getting it wrong, should the legislature also get it wrong? Somebody needs to get it right at some point, somewhere in the chain. It's okay. It's okay. Now let's go ahead. So, still on this issue of the state's capture, and on this show, we've actually had the Honorable Peter Blackpa come here and explain the issues to us. We've had a whole forum with the TUC, also around this issue. Interestingly, we finally heard from the minister, the sector minister in the person of the Honorable Samuel Abu Jinapo, and this is the press release that he which wishes to set the record straight in respect of the issues, and he tailors up to 59 specific issues. I think what he, in his attempt to set the record straight, did was to sort of pick specific lands and when they were right. So on the face of it, when this one came out, everybody thought that he had sort of come and thrown a bomb, so to speak, because he was more or less saying that, well, yeah, but it's not, this didn't happen under our tenure. Correct me if you would. This happened under, it's not within. And then quickly, the Honorable Samuel Blackwa comes back with his own, what do you say, a reply to a bomb? What would that be? Yeah, and the issues get more and more and more interesting. But even as I saw this one from, the Honorable Jinapo, I'm sorry, but I still didn't understand the point. As it for me, it was more like, okay, so today we are talking about state capture today. How does this answer that question for me? Because at the end of the day, my interest as a Ghanaian is that it goes away. This is when somebody is elected, and I'm electing you to come and solve my problem, and unknown to me, I'm electing you to come and have easy access to state lands goes away. And then this comes as an answer. And for me, this could not have been an answer. I talk too much. I'll start with you, Kwame, on this issue.
Okay. I think that the issue about state capture is one that we have to look at from very apolitical perspective. By that I mean that we should be very Ghanaian in having that conversation and not overly partisan. And we should not discuss it from the perspective of sentiment, but rather we have to look at it from the perspective of truth and facts, right? Okudzeto was the one who sought to expose this. And he has been doing quite some good work in exposing some of the ills in this administration. And he indicated that there are some government lands which have been taken over by some politically exposed persons within this administration, specifically cited or mentioned some lands. Parks and Gardens in Wa, mentioned Parks and Gardens here in Accra, mentioned W.B. Du Bois, mentioned several others. The Nigerian High Commission, I think, and there was another embassy that was mentioned. Okay, I forgot, it will come to me, right? The Bulgarian embassy. And, several others, Bostal Institute, you remember. And so my understanding from that was that, well, I mean, if politically exposed people are capturing all these by reason of their closeness to power or by reason of their affiliation and association with the executive, then we must do something about it, because it cannot be that the only reason why people may want to come into office is so that they are, they will use that that power that they wield to steal from the state or to take state assets. And you ask yourself, I mean, most of these people would not have had the opportunity of even getting close to some of these assets if they were not close to power. Now, I think that the conversation should have ended there, and we should have paused and asked ourselves very important questions as to whether or not we should allow this to continue, whether we should truncate this and have a national conversation and perhaps even come up with a law that will specifically prevent people who are politically exposed and people who are close to persons who are politically exposed to, purchase state assets or assets belonging to the state. You know that this is a perennial matter, started from Kufuor's era. Jacob Bejebilante, of course, I mean, the court determination said that, whatever. But, I mean, that is when it started. Okudzeto was the one who took him to court, etc. Several matters have come up after Jacob Bejebilante's matter, the AU village, several other, state-owned enterprises. Now, look, the response from Abu Jinapor is quite unfortunate. Because in that same response, the land in Wa, the Parks and Gardens land in Wa, okay, which was a subject matter of discussion in Okudzeto's release, it's clear that there has not been any disagreement in respect of the person who the land was handed over to. And that even the local government minister, okay, corroborates Okudzeto's assertion that land has subsequently been given to a private developer who is a politically exposed individual, but fails to mention his name, and says that as we speak today, there's a filling station on that piece of land. And the argument is that we've already given it to him, so let him have it. Must that be allowed to happen? Should we countenance that? Should we allow this to happen? So, as for us, whenever we get into politics, we just want to come and steal from the state. Is that our main business of or our main understanding of what governance is? It shouldn't be like that. This W.B. Du Bois thing that what's his name, Abu Jinapor responded to, and obviously denied, right? Knowledge of. I think Okudzeto has brought documents which indicates that yes, there's that conversation has been had, and that is been leased to a private developer for 50 years, and that they've had conversations even about sword cutting, which will be happening in August, 24th of August or so, and the president has been invited. So where is the lie? Where is the lie? Look, Abu Jinapo is a young, fine gentleman, but I think that his name is he's involved in too many things. I think he should watch it, because look, Charlie, he's living as if the end of the world is tomorrow, and that he's just trying to do it. If you don't have the facts, and I think that he himself on Joy FM this morning was saying that there are some documents that he's not seized with, and therefore he may not be able to respond to all of them. So if you are not seized with the documents, why do you come and respond to them? Why do you create the impression that your response represents the truth and not that which has been put forward by Okudzeto Ablakwa? It's frustrating, Ama. If we are not careful, we'll be there. Somebody will come and sell Jubilee House. I'm telling you. No, seriously.
Right.
Look, the judges.
Right.
Mama, please, I beg you. The judges. You started with me. Let me make my point. You remember the judges where they used to live? We get that one is not for a private developer, but it's a very stupid decision that government took. Gave it out for the construction of a cathedral, and we dug a hole, $58 million. Are we seeing? Meanwhile, judges were living there, and I've seen that property, beautiful property, beautiful, buildings. Yeah, and then you just break them down for the purpose of building a cathedral. Well, look, finally, my uncle was a judge before he passed on, Justice Jaisayo. I used to visit him at where's that place? Close to American Embassy. That place where the judges live. What's the name? Whatever they call it. Look, he told me one time that I'm packing out. I said, Uncle, why? I said, oh, haven't you seen the next building? Haven't you seen they demolished it? They've given it to a private developer. So even me, I have to pack out because they want to demolish where I live and give it out. Nana Kumia's explanation is that, we have had colonial buildings where we had the main building and some 30 meters or whatever. They have boys' quarters and things like that. It has outlived its usefulness, and spoke about the Accra redevelopment and infilling plan. Does it include selling of state properties to politically exposed persons? Yes, you can give it out to private individuals if you think that proper valuation has been done, the right amount has been given, and the state can fully benefit from it. But if you give it to political, like for instance the Snit matter, you do know that Brian Champo did not have the full money to go and pay for the hotels. Yet, because he's a politically exposed person, you wanted to give it to him.
The first one that he acquired, is it the one in Kumasi? The one that he started to pay in
Masa, even with the other Snit dealings.
That we don't know yet.
Oh, Masa,
at least we know of the Kumasi one. We know that's what he paid.
But even the Kumasi one,
we are making the same point.
No, I agree. But even the Kumasi one, that is one hotel. He could not fund it. So 4 hotels, you said that he can fund 4 hotels. So I'm saying that we need to put a stop to all of these things that we are doing. Ghana is not for a particular group of people. Ghana is for all of us. If you want to steal state lands, go to when you are descending, when you are going to Tamale, you are descending, you see there are vast lands there. Go and develop those places. Why do you want to live in cantonments? Why do you want to live in Ridge? Go and develop the outskirts of Accra, the outskirts of Tamale, the outskirts of Sunyane, and Ghana will develop. Don't come and be stealing from the
let me introduce Clarence, and Clarence, when I was talking about the indiscipline, you are the one I had in mind for that. So you're welcome, Clarence. It's wonderful to have you here. Next time be your time. But I'm particularly happy that Clarence is here today because when we praise Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa, for all of the things that he's doing, there are some faces behind him, who help, who are part of his team. Clarence is one of those people. Clarence, we are happy that you are here today. So let's go. Let's speak to the issues.
Thank you, Amma. I don't speak for Okudzeto Ablakwa. But first of all, I want to commend Honorable Ablakwa for all the good work he's done and for taking time to always come out well. And I was speaking to somebody a few minutes ago and I said, when Okudzeto Ablakwa drops something, he has 5 more, but he will intentionally leave one for you to come and think you have an exit. And
That's the mistake everybody makes. When they jump at the exit plan, then he comes and he, like Mortal Kombat, finish them. And he finishes them. He takes his time to do a lot of research. He doesn't just come out. He has his credibility to protect. So he makes sure that everything that he puts out there has been tested, retested, verified before he puts it out there. He has a lot. But because he's not sure, he's not finished his verification process, he can't. I always tease him that he can release 2 scandals a day till 7th December 2024, and he still have more in his closet. He does a lot of checks. And I want to salute not just him, but the entire minority in Parliament, including Honorable Suhini, for the good job they are doing. I'm at the lands. The seal. It's disgusting. But you know what worries me? Do you know we had a very big events place called the State House? It hasn't been sold. For 8 years, it's been closed down for renovation. And not even a curtain has been brought down. So it's not that you're selling the rest. The one that you have to fix to, you are. The ones you're supposed to fix, you are not fixed. The ones that are in good shape, you are selling off. Why are politicians like that? So you see the rush for everybody to go into politics because they think there's something there. That's not how it's supposed to be. Ghana deserves better. The parts of gardens, it's gone. Accra and Wa, gone. Even I've seen a huge structure coming next to the Flagstaff House. Some say it's GRA, some say it's a private developer. I don't know if you see, you don't see it from the main road, but when you're passing the back of the Flagstaff House, the park, the red park, you see a huge structure coming up. That was supposed to be security land. Because the whole of Kanda, where beneficence places, you're not supposed to put high-rise buildings there. Now it's gone. What is gone? I'm not one who says we should let it go and protect the rest, because there's none left to protect. So let's fight for what is gone. Whoever, be it a politician, a friend of a politician, a radio journalist, whoever must pay for it. Because by the time your children, my children, Kojo's children, Sweeney's children are old, we won't have anything. And in future, the Freddie Blaze dancer will tell my child that you are lazy. Meanwhile, your grandfather made it because of political. The beachfront is a mess. And Labadi Beach almost wants. Who knows? What's next?
What's next? What's next? Clarence, thank you so much. What's next, Honorable? Honorable, what's next? What's next? You asked for public outcry to take action. We've given you the public outcry. So what's next, Honorable?
Have you given us a public outcry?
We have. We were there for the demonstration. At least myself and Clarence. We are the ones who showed up for the demonstration, not Kojo, not Kwame.
You know, I've been saying it. It used to be a very popular phrase some time ago. I don't see or hear of it lately, even though I sound like a lone ranger, reminding people that it's still a useful phrase. Ghanaians are not angry enough. Ghanaians are not angry enough. The land grab, the state capture. I mean, no one is spared and nothing is spared. You just have to look. You just have to look in the different sectors of our economy and our lives. And the grabbing is left, right, center. From the north to the south, the appropriation of government properties and assets is just repulsive. And sometimes, like Clarence started, it's like a deliberate action to even, it's like there's a deliberate action to even knock down some of these assets, devalue them, and then make a case that they need to be sold. I mean, because look at trade fair. What's happening there? I mean, trade fair in its shape, in the shape that it was in, was still serving a useful purpose. At least once a while, we used to have national trade fairs there, and people went there to buy stuff for cheap, and sometimes to even build network. In fact, Joy FM sometimes used to hold the old school union there sometimes. It still served a purpose. People were getting married there and doing birthday parties there. You know, and the tenants there, even if all of them were not paying their rent regularly, those who paid did, and those who owed it,
They still owe.
they still owe to the state. But look at its state for how many years now? Pull down. And if you are not, you know, careful, you will say that it is done in such a way that we can all forget about it, and the lands will be distributed and shared. And before I realize, private people own parcels of land there. In fact, there seems to be some development going on there. No one is telling us anything. I've seen heaps of gravel every now and then when I'm passing there, and I'm wondering what's happening. The same thing, the same fate was going to befall La General Hospital. The same fate was going to befall La General Hospital. But for the public outcry. That's why I keep going back to it. It's important. But for the public outcry, how many press conferences were not organized by the minority, by the ranking member? How many visits did he not undertake with media men to the place?
I went there. Yeah.
But the public outcry eventually forced government to at least reduce their scope and have gotten a contractor to move to site. It's all over. I mean, just yesterday I was informed of the GES block in Laura, and how a politically exposed person, I'm still doing verification, has annexed it for his use.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's all over. Look, there's a pending question in Parliament. The Tamale Timber Market area, center of town. I don't know how well you know town, but I'm talking about the Pekona area.
Been there.
Pekona area, the Ababu Market area. Prime land, timber market, 1.4 acres of land, sold to a private developer for 621 Ghana cedis. Yes.
No, honorable.
Yes. 621 Ghana cedis. That's the least amount.
1,000.
No. 621 old million. If I put it that way, you understand. 6 million.
Less than 1,000
Yes.
Ghana cedis.
For 50 years, that's the lease. That's how much he paid for the lease. I have been on this case for only God knows how long with the minister. In fact, first, there was a denial that it was sold. The Regional Lands Commission held a press conference to deny the sale. I have documents. I was on it. I filed questions on the floor. Eventually, the minister came to admit that the previous, and that's what he does all the time, that his predecessor was the one engaged in that transaction. And that's how he admitted to he admitted to the sale without the price. And when I followed up with the price, I was told to file a substantive question. I did it again. That's what I was saying, parliamentary procedures. I was asked to file a substantive question before he would answer that, because my question was on whether it has been sold or not. Now he admits that yes, it's been sold. If I want to know the price, I should file a substantive question. I did. For like 2 months now. It's just last week that I saw that the question had been advertised for him to come and answer. Unfortunately, when it's not an urgent question, because it was filed as an urgent question, but we didn't have time, they shifted it, it became a normal question. So when it's not an urgent question, the answers are provided. He provided the answer, and in the answer, even though he has not come to answer it on the floor yet, because it was advertised, but he didn't have time to come, and he hasn't had time to come yet. But the answer is there, admitted that the lease, the state earned 621 Ghana cedis for that 1.38 acres of land in the center of Tamale. And yet, this is land that is occupied by timber traders. That's why it's called a timber, market. And it's part of the Forestry Commission land. And that's the interesting thing. The rape is such that it even creates confusion between state agencies. And I'll illustrate in the recent release. So this was supposed to be Forestry Commission land. Forestry Commission was seeking to protect the land when the Land Commission, which is also a state agency, had leased it to this private developer for 50 years. Now, the timber market people were asked to move. They were going to be evicted. Forestry Commission have been taking rent from this timber market people. Mm-hmm. The rent doesn't go to the workers' pocket, it comes to the state pocket. A consolidated fund. But you were given, and I dare say that the rent that the people were paying is more than the 621 Ghana cedis you have taken from this so-called private developer. I mean, it's so mind-boggling. So you have confusion between Lands Commission and Forestry Commission. I'm saying I'll illustrate the confusion that this rape is creating even among state institutions with his own release, where you have the case of the Parks and Garden land. He admitted to the other one in Upper West. He didn't challenge that it's been sold. But the one at Cantonment, he claims that, again, shifting. In fact, I said somewhere yesterday, and I was advised by my own younger brother to not to be, because I said sometimes I feel he approaches some of these criticisms with a naive mind. I can't find a better word for it. So one, it's like his program to say, this didn't start today. And so I almost use the F word. It didn't start today, so let's continue. That's the first, default response you get. Then the second one is to say, this is what the technical people have said. And that's it. He's not even minded when you are drawing his attention to go behind the technical briefing. Because some of these technical people are part of the problem. It's not always the politicians. Yes, the politicians lead. But some of these technical people at those ministries also benefit from those transactions. So when they are giving you briefings as a political head, I'll expect that you will listen to other, views and other, concerns on the subject matter with an open mind. So you are well grounded to take a decision as a political head, because in the end, it falls on the politician. So you have a situation where the cantonment's land comes up, you have the local government minister come to admit to all the attempts to annex the land for a private developer. He admits. And then he gives, in a parliamentary question, gives steps that he and his ministry, were taking to preserve that land for use of cantonment, for the parks and garden. And that he was even going to remove the containers that the private developer had put there, because the private developer could not show any title or, agreement.
Which he has.
Local government minister.
I think he has done that. He has done that.
Who?
Removed the
Yes, he has actually removed the containers. And he actually went further to remove the containers that were put there by the private developer. Few days after that, you, the land minister, you come to recite all these things to us, supporting the claim that the land is actually for a private developer. Yet you are both appointees of the same government. How can your colleague minister have a different status report on that same, land? That aside, you are telling us that the process of leasing it to a private developer started in 2015-2016. And the question I always ask is, and so what? You don't correct the wrongs. You don't use the wrongs of the past to justify the wrongs of today. If it was bad then, it's still bad. And if you criticize it then and took over, the expectation is that you will correct it. You will correct it. And the attempt to even, the example is in the judicial service land. You claim again in your response there that about 24 leases were granted on that land. And that when you came, in 2017, because I'm saying when he came because of the dates he used. In 2017, you reversed them all.
And then granted 8.
And then a couple of years later, you decided to grant 8.
One to Frames Oil.
You haven't told us the basis upon which you restored the 8 and decided not to restore the other 13. And even if the 13 are still available, we don't know. Maybe some other people have gotten the lease. So, in one breath, you show by example that when you took over, you had the power to reverse what you considered to be wrong. But then you continue to repeat that wrong and now use that past to justify it. You think we are people who don't put one and one together and know that it is true? You see, so I think that the anger that we are showing is good, but it's not enough. We need more because, you see, and I am particularly worried because this is happening in my time, in my generation. I am very disturbed. I remember another press conference we held in Tamale some time ago at Tamale West Hospital. My father, God bless his soul, was one of the pioneering workers of that hospital. So I know how it started because I used to sometimes drive him to work and pick him from work. I know how that hospital started. Today, apart from the Tamale Teaching Hospital and the Central Hospital, is the biggest in the whole metropolis. And there was the anticipation that it will grow, and so a lot of land banks were left around the hospital. It has since grown, in fact, tripled in size from the time that I knew it when it started. And yet, the land that is left, they have sold to themselves. In fact, you go to the Lands Commission, and many of the people holding the leases are either members of parliament or members of boards from the region. We had to take media there to hold a press conference there. Myself and then the former minority leader and just the Northern MPs. To highlight the problem. Because, you see, I'm thinking to myself, why are you selling these lands in our time? As if we cannot imagine that these institutions will expand and grow and will need more land to serve the growing population. If our forefathers didn't think to reserve these lands, if they thought greedily like us, where would our Kolebus be? Where would our rich hospitals be? Those were prime lands then too. If there is need for expansion of these institutions today, the way we are selling those lands around them, you go to the police service, the prison service, and it's not just in Greater Accra, even the original lands are being sold. As if Ghana is coming to an end after this regime. And so I think that, as members of parliament, we'll continue to expose some of these things. But it will take all of us to come together to support decisions that will make it impossible for politicians now and in the future to take advantage of such, state properties. And we need to make sure that parties that are, angling for power today make that pledge. And I'm happy that the party I belong to is making that commitment already. And I can trust that, because even if it was the case under the previous NDC, it was not this bad. Because I can remember the number of times that bans were put on sale of state properties to government officials. Under Prof. Samuels, it happened. I remember under Mike Hammer, there was a fiat. They were not selling even some of these government lands. Yes, at some points they were relaxed, they were brought back. I like that better than what we have now. And because of what we have now, when those who provided the better give you the assurance that when they come, they will now shut it down, I have reason to believe that then they mean what they are saying. But let us ensure that it is actually done.
I want us to take a quick commercial break when we come back. I know, but I need us to take a quick commercial break and then stay with us. Stay with us. Welcome back to the show. I think, Kojo, you should have a word, at this point, right? Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time.
I've realized by the time it comes to me, there's not a lot of time. There's no time. I'll
start with him.
And well, I'm going to have to really summarize. I made about 12 points here while I was listening to you, but I can't make them all. I'll just try and get straight to it, okay? The first thing I want to say is I'm very disappointed. I'm very disappointed, not only in this government and the current lands minister, who is very intent on dodging all responsibility for what is obvious corruption, obvious state capture. Not only am I disappointed in him, he's a friend of mine, by the way. I mean, it gives me no pleasure to criticize him in this way. But no, this is not the response you give to the people who have granted you the privilege of stewardship. This is not how you respond to them. He sees that as a privilege? Well, clearly he doesn't. Clearly he doesn't see it as a privilege. Well, I'm very disappointed. But my disappointment extends to the NDC as well. And I mean, all my friends too. I am disappointed in the types of governments we have had in this Fourth Republic and how they have their attitude towards state property. I mean, forget about the God knows how many examples that the lands minister is stating. I think it is a fact that every government has had members who have taken advantage, who have, basically taken liberties with state property. Every government has had them. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a need for Professor Atta Mills to have put a ban on, the purchase of state property. But even the idea that you can come and buy state property for yourself just because your party is in government, even the idea is the most selfish, self-serving, self-indulgent, downright criminal idea. And then to carry it out, it's terrible, it's disappointing. And you see, it comes all the way from leadership. Who has forgotten that when former President Mahama himself was leaving office, he wanted to take the property that he was living in? Who has forgotten? So I'm afraid there are no good examples when it comes to how these parties have behaved in government. But let's be clear. What's happening today? What's happening today is stinking and despicable. Because what they've done now is that they've decided to take it to its extreme. I mean, when have you ever seen a lands and forestry, forestry commission chief executive leaving forests to people in his will? When has that ever happened in this country?
Or anywhere else, Huju? Or anywhere else.
And look, it is bad. What is happening now is terrible. Look, Ramsar sites. Every time I say this, I'm so ashamed because I know that now the things we do go on social media and the whole world can see them. So somebody in a foreign country is going to see that in Ghana, we are selling Ramsar site land to our government officials and their friends. We are doing that in. Do you know what a Ramsar site is, Ama? In 1975, UNESCO made countries, nations agree that there are certain things that if they happen to our planet, we cannot undo them. If we lose certain species, we cannot recreate them. We are not God. If there is anything that cannot be fixed, it is the extinction of a species. So as a global community of humans, we decided that certain parts of our nations, our individual nations, will be protected so that the ecology there, the zoology there, the plant life, the animal life will never be lost. This is a concept that must live above all greed and self-service. This is an idea that nobody's personal what's the word I'm looking for? Personal interest should ever rise to the level of such. And man, I'm out of words. But here in Ghana, we sold Ramsar site land, and you know what this government is saying? What has been sold should go.
No.
Let's try and protect what is left.
No.
No, I mean, it is a crime. It is an offense. We have laws against it. So if someone has, come on. If someone has bought Ramsar land, I'm sorry, you didn't buy anything.
No.
You didn't buy anything. We should collect it. But we say, you take it. Take that one.
Take that.
What are we saying? And when someone is asking you, okay, what's happening to Parks and Gardens land? What's happening here? What's happening? Your response is that, oh, but others did it. The other party also did it. So do you know what that's like? You just imagine, Amma, you just imagine that a man has built a business over a period of years, but he hasn't run it well. So for several, months, he's been unable to pay his staff. So it gets to the point where he can't run the company anymore. So one of his sons comes and says, you know what, I can do a much better job than you. Hand over the reins to me. So the company is handed over to you. Then for a year, you don't pay staff. And the staff are saying, what's going on here? And your response to them is that, oh, I haven't paid you, you're upset. But when my father was running the company, he also didn't pay you for certain months. how in God's name can that be your response to the people to whom you are responsible? The people to whom you are supposed to render account for every activity, for every peswa that you spend in their name. The people who are paying you a salary to manage the lands and natural resources of this nation. Your answer to them is that if we are selling, make you no bore, because the person before us also sold. So what they do is that, in essence, you see, what they are doing is that they are uniting themselves as the enemies of the state. Okay, so what the Lands and Natural Resource Minister is saying is that my party and my opponent's party, together, we are your enemies. That's what they are saying. So when my brother, my senior in career, when he says that we are not angry enough, well, part of me hopes Ghanaians are listening. Part of me too is afraid that Ghanaians are listening, because the one thing that will unite them is when they realize that there's no difference.
Kojo, that scares me.
That's what I'm saying.
That scares me.
That's what I'm saying. But unfortunately,
apathy is not a good thing.
Unfortunately, we don't have good examples. We only have individuals like Mr. Okujeto Ablakwa, who has decided that he's against the principle. Doesn't matter which party does it, he's against it. And he has been on record to say so. Apart from those few and far between examples of individuals who speak against it, there is no corporate responsibility to change it. They only hate it when the other party is doing it. It's only bad when the other party is doing it. So Abu Jinapo can see what is wrong with NDC selling state property. John Mahama can see what is wrong with NPP selling state policy property. But they can't see what's wrong when they themselves do it.
It clearly tells you why people get into politics.
Okay. Oh yes, obviously.
That's the
obviously.
Not
this is what it's about. This is what it's about.
This one chops on me to the camp chops on. That's it.
So look, I'm going to go and stand in the sun on the 7th of December to vote for the next beneficiary of my sweat. I'm going to vote for the next people who will come and enjoy what I work to pay for. That's nonsense. And look, anyway, let me just end with this. Right now, the way that this particular government is going with it, they need to be very careful. Is there or is there not somebody called Jato?
There, yeah.
Is there or is there not a person who has been contracted by the state to protect state land? Hey, look, Ama, this is the lowest of the low, that the state cannot protect its own land. It can't. Police can't do it. Military can't do it. Immigration, fire said nobody can protect state land. So they brought in a private person. He is the one who can do it. So he will come and annex and protect state land from encroachment, and then you pay him with what?
Land.
State land.
Wow.
Let me just say this.
We're terrible.
Whoever in government came up with this arrangement, whoever came up with this arrangement, please, I want to ask, how much was spent on his education? Can we get it back? Can we? Because whoever it is, if we've elevated him to a position where he can make such decisions, and it is carried out, so no chief director at the ministry looked at it and said, "Abai." Nobody looked at it and said, "We are bringing a private person to come and protect state land and pay him with state land." You need to say more to them. Let me just look. The final thing I'll say: if we keep doing this, we'll unite the people against the government. We'll unite people against politicians. And when the poor run out of things to eat, they'll eat the rich.
They will eat the rich. And unfortunately, it's united not against the politicians, against the system. That's why I'm scared.
Exactly.
Because we would revolt against the system.
And that is why
your time is up.
And that is why your time is up. And that is why I think that in these conversations we need to still pay attention to things that are similar, but not the same. You know, if we lump things that are similar with, with others as if they were the same, then we heighten the threats that scares you. But if we let people see the differences, even though they look similar, they can choose and demand better, even from what is better. I don't know if you are making sense.
All hope is not lost. I like to think on what you're saying as hope. That look, in the fray, it's not all that bad.
For example,
there's some hope here.
For example, I mean, I have enjoyed this conversation. We've all been very, passionate about the Ghana project. But the example of John Mahama and his house has to be put in a context. There's a presidential emolument committee that says every former president is given a new house. Whether you like it or not, that is what it says, that every former president will be given a house in Accra and in his hometown. A new house will be built for every former president. Whilst leaving office, he tells, yes, you may not like it, you may not be happy with it, but that is what the law says. Then when he is leaving office, he tells the incoming president that instead of the state wasting money to build another house for me in Accra, if the state wants me to live here, I can live here. It was up to the president to allow him to live there or not. The president agreed in principle, but later changed his mind. It's not the same as saying he wanted to annex it for himself. Are you getting why I say things may be similar? He's entitled. Things may be similar, but they are not the same. The things may be similar, but they are not the same. I mean, on this Jato matter that he raised, I remember when I broke that issue, you recall. And I was so scandalized when at the committee meeting, this was revealed to us, that even before the committee could file its report, I had to, go to town with my anger. But you know what? The system, the parliamentary system, had issues with me. And I soldiered on. Until date. I mean, the report of that committee has not been laid because Suhini exposed the matter even before it came up. The threats on my life.
Oh, that's one that you get.
On that matter continue up till today. And as we speak, there's actually a question again on it for the minister to tell us, because he came when I asked the first question. After I blew it up, I asked a question for him to tell us the nature of the contract. He came again saying that, the relationship started in the NDC era. I said, I don't care. I want to understand why the state will do this. Now he says there was a contract. I said, produce the contract that was signed so that we can all study the contract. And I believe that will even make us more angry. Because I've seen copies of something that was called a contract that was not even signed in 2016 as he was claiming. Up to today, he has not come to Parliament to answer that question. You get it? So, I agree with Kojo that that is the lowest we can get. In fact, the ministry's claim was that this gentleman was responsible for even protecting land belonging to the police and the military.
That one individual.
Absolutely.
He was protecting.
That even the police and the military go to him to protect their land. That's the justification.
You see why someone's education must be refunded?
No, somebody's a thief, Kojo. Somebody's a thief.
Fortunately, I mean, when the matter happened, I recall the Ghana Armed Forces came out to deny. The police also came out to deny that they were.
What do you want them to admit?
They were using his services. In fact, the claim was even that he has his own judiciary.
Wow.
And that he knows where he. I mean, it's scandalous. But that's what is happening in the land sector.
But who created it?
That's what
the system created it, and we've allowed it to happen. So obviously, I just wanted I know we are done. I just wanted to wrap up on this whole EC matter.
That's what I was just about. So you start. 2 seconds each on Madame Jane Mensah. 2 seconds each. I know my producers are now.
Madame Jane Mensah is saying
behind the scenes,
that losers must accept defeat.
Yes.
I don't know where in the Constitution. I mean, in the Constitution, I don't know where she's getting that power from to make a determination as to whether or not somebody should accept defeat or not.
Come, you leave the Constitution out. She's your EC boss. She's saying that when you lose...
No, I'm saying that the Constitution has not granted that authority to come in. The Constitution clearly, if you read Article 45, it spells out exactly what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to organize a freer and fairer election. If the election is free and fair and somebody loses, are you the one to come and tell somebody to accept?
It doesn't lie in her mouth. Okay.
So it doesn't lie in your mouth to say somebody should accept. So you just be an umpire who is not interested, who is not partisan, who is not political. Do you understand?
Right.
When you are able to referee well, I think that the Ghanaian people will make a determination. Their right to vote is enshrined in the Constitution, and that must be respected. If that is respected, then it doesn't lie in the mouth of the EC to come and tell whoever to accept or not accept.
1 second.
Jane Mensah, just operate a level playing field, and then whoever wins will celebrate. Who loses?
Who lose?
Yes, but my point is, you see, at this point, the journalists are looking for headlines. They are looking for beats to make news. So if you speak, and all they can pick is losers must accept defeat, then go back and check your speech. It wasn't inspiring. And we don't want you talking. Just give us a level playing field. Don't talk, act.
That's all. Thank you, Clarence.
It's unfortunate. The reputation of our referee has been very badly damaged by certain decisions made by this government. And, maybe we need to have another look at how much influence government has over the referee. Okay, because by putting people who are known members of your party, people who have been seen campaigning for your party, people who have been patrons of the youth wings of your party, putting these people in office at the referee.
Takes out the confidence.
I mean, what do you expect?
Absolutely. Honorable.
Colleagues, hers is to conduct free and fair elections. She has no business in telling the contestants what they should do afterwards. She should just do what she's supposed to do. How the contestants respond after her is their business. It's not her business. Maybe the Peace Council, maybe that's the job of the Peace Council.
Even they shouldn't say such a thing.
I'm just saying, but she has no business to tell us how we should behave, whether we win or we lose. I'm a contestant, by the way. I'm going to be a parliamentary candidate. It is not her business to tell me how I should respond, whether I lose or I win. Hers is to conduct free, fair elections. And whether she wants to do so or not, we are determined to make sure that she does so.
You're leaving here absolutely no choice.
She has no choice.
Absolutely no choice. Thank you, gentlemen. Always a pleasure. Thank you, Kojo. Lovely to see you. Honorable, we want to see more of you. Hi, Kwame.
I want to be here too. Am I forgiven?
We are reviewing. We are Clarence, it's good to have you here, finally. Finally. You're always in the background somewhere. Today you're here.
Yes.
Great to have you here. Always in the corner there. Well, thank you for watching. It's always a pleasure to come your way. I say this every week and I mean it. I appreciate that you appreciate the fact that here we speak our minds, just the way we see it, just the way we feel about it. We appreciate that you appreciate that. We need your comments, your contribution at the end of the day. The reason we do this is so that our country will be better for all of us. Thanks for watching. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye. Bye.